Minnesota Vikings fans, welcome back to the Purple People Eaters podcast. He's Aaron, I'm Chris, and we're here to discuss our beloved, it's kind of hard to say that right now, Vikings football squad. Obviously, as we all know, we got beat by Cleveland, and it's not the normal, Cleveland? You got beat by Cleveland? Like next week, you got beat by the Lions? It's not that. We found out how damn good their defense is, that's for sure. And their running game. Baker really didn't do much against us, but that run game was it was powerful. It really felt like they did what we like to do to people, to us. And so, yeah, we're going to open up the show by recapping this ugly game. A lot of people want to talk about the defense giving up a lot of yards, for rushing anyway. That's cool. We're going to talk about these last couple minutes of the second quarter. That's been bad. But to be fair, one touchdown at 14 points, I'd say they did enough. And it'd be nice if it wasn't so many 3-and-outs. I think 5 3-and-outs on the Vikings offense. So this loss is squarely on the hands of the Vikings. There's just no way around it. Obviously, the offensive line faced a destructive defensive line for the first time this year, and it really feels about much like 3 or 4 games a year where we see this the last handful of years, where we just get beat at the line of scrimmage, and there's really just no way around it. So we are going to kind of talk our way through some of this. We were just talking off air about a variety of things. Pass interference calls is something we'll talk about. Not just the Kendricks one. I don't know if anybody saw that Thielen one at the end, but that one was bad. But yeah, there's a variety of things that we'll get into on this Monday night. Obviously, we will preview the Lions home game where, under Zimmer, we've been good against the Lions, so knock on wood, we need the W. There was a time where we said, hey, if we could be 2-3 after we started 0-2, that's still manageable. Then you got to start splitting the road games when you go on the road back to back. But we're not that far down just yet. There is some possible injury stuff that's starting to stack up on us, too, of key players anyway. A player just randomly tested positive for COVID. So, yeah, we're going to talk it all the way through. And, of course, if you listen to the show, we do end the show with the Gopher segment, and they did get a key, sloppy, rainy win, at Purdue. So that was key for them, no doubt about it, after the debacle a week before that. But if this is your first time listening to this Vikings podcast, welcome. It's available in a variety of places. It streams live on blogtalkradio.com/Rope-A-Dope Radio. You don't have to go to Blog Talk and Rope-A-Dope and download the show directly there or listen to the browser if you don't want. You can find this here Vikings podcast on the platform Rope-A-Dope, on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Player FM, TuneIn, all sorts of stuff. We're also part of the Grueling Truth Sports Podcast Network. While you're at it, why don't you head on over to thegruelingtruth.com. And Aaron last year set up in a different account here. It's called Living in Loserville on Spreaker. That's Living in Loserville, Spreaker. Sometimes the show is available there a little early. And, of course, year-round, that's Vikings, T-Wolves, Gophers, football, and basketball. And then he has his own podcast that you might find some interest in. One more thing, if you're thinking about cutting the cord or you're not quite happy, I got something for you. It's called DirecTV Stream. The prices start as low as $69.99. The best of live TV and on-demand, no annual contract, no hidden fees. If you upgrade to the Choice or Ultimate package, you get free months of HBO Max, plus you get to enjoy regional sports networks without additional fees. And if you go all the way to the Premier package, that comes with Showtime and HBO Max already included. That's DirecTV Stream. Okay, I'm going to take a little sip of water and bring in my co-host and see how he's doing on this early Monday evening.
I'm doing great. Besides the Viking loss, everything seems to be working out well. But, defensively, Chris, I thought there were some hiccups there. I thought that the 30-yard run, which we'll get into, was not a defensive highlight, but you give up 14 points in a weird way. We can talk about how that came to be. You give up a touchdown and then a 2-point conversion and then a field goal, and it's just the weirdest way to get to 14 ever. But offensively, like you kind of already foreshadowed, our offensive line is our offensive line, and it looked good last week. And we've been asking a lot of questions about it, and it kind of gave us some confidence thinking about, well, these guys seem to be playing a lot better, but then you run into guys like Myles Garrett or Akeem Hicks, the guy we talk about every year, and defensive lines that are built to wreck these zone lines, and they still haven't done much about it. Now, Udo's a bigger guy, obviously, but you still got Bradbury in the middle. You're rolling Rashad Hill out there, and I mean rolling in a almost humorous way, as sends a picture you sent me, and I think it's going around the internet right now where he ended up on his backside. But like we said earlier, that kind of went all the way around. It happened to Udo, it happened to Bradbury, it happened to I think everybody but O'Neal in this game. So the line of scrimmage was dominated, I want to say, on both sides of the ball. And he didn't have Pierce for the whole game, so that you can kind of caveat the defensive line there. But offensive line has much to be desired, as we all kind of knew and hoped that it wouldn't raise its ugly head once again, but it did. And we couldn't run the ball with Cook or without Cook. Just really dominated by that defensive line of the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah, even on the last play, O'Neal didn't get, put on his butt like you were talking about, but, rushing 3 guys and they still had pressure. I mean, right off the bat too. It's like, really, dude, even on the last play of the game, it's crazy, man. It's really crazy. But just kind of breaking down some of the first half stuff. I mean, it sure started really well. You know what I mean? Jefferson caught that 3rd and 7, beautiful catch. Thielen had a 22-yard grab. 4th and 1, Ham, got in there, 14 plays. Jefferson, got the 12-yard touchdown. Looked good. I mean, 7 minutes, 34-second drive, and then Cleveland took. There was 2 possessions. That was crazy. 2 possessions in the first quarter. 15 play, over 7 minutes, but Griff got the sack. Hunter was there pressuring, and I think he got a sack earlier, some pretty good pressure just in general that whole drive. But the turnover on downs right away, and you're like, okay, here we go. And the Vikes 3 and out. They set up this screenplay. It just failed miserably, like most of them. Then Cleveland 3 and out. So you're like, okay, we're good. 7-play drive. Look like we're moving the ball. Osborne makes a great catch. 34, I think we moved the ball like 34 yards or whatever. And then we turn the ball over on downs. And I want to ask the first question here. 4th and 6 at that part of the field. Everybody on Twitter is like, yes, they went for it. This is awesome. And I get it. You like to be a little bit more aggressive. Zimmer isn't necessarily the most he doesn't scream aggression per se. He's not making the calls, but in the end, it's what he wants to do, right? So 4th and 6, Monday morning quarterback, we get it, but you can punt, you can kick a super long field goal, or you can go for it. And the way the defense was playing, the punt's not that horrible. What'd you think there on that play right there? Because they took it and drove beyond that.
Well, let's go back in time a little bit. On the long drive to start the game, they had to go on 4th, and they got it. And then Cleveland went a couple times. Yeah, 4th and 1, correct. And then Cleveland also said, well, screw you. You want to do that? We'll do that too. And we stopped them on a 4th at the goal line. And then there's the infamous 4th down call with that involved Kendricks. And then so it just seemed with the game flow that's what was happening. We were going on 4th. They were going on 4th. So I didn't have a problem with it. I actually kind of liked it. Now 4th and 6, where they were, that makes you think about it a little bit more. But at some point, you got to move the ball. And I guess, I like the aggressiveness. We talked, I think, last week a little bit about where you go for it on 4th, and this wasn't the best place. But, you're either, real long field goal, punt, or go on 4th. And I guess, of those three choices, I wasn't that upset about going for it. In hindsight, obviously, a punt would have been better, but, you don't get the advantage of hindsight in that situation.
Yeah, no doubt. But the thing is that 17 play drive hadn't happened yet, that second one. And so we had a long drive early. We moved the ball on the other drive. So we had only had 1 3 and out. So to me, it was like we were moving the ball at that time. So I would have liked a punt there. I mean, I tweeted it. I'd rather punt there. The long field goal, I'm told I would be against. And what's his toes, Joseph, has a little issue right now, like a right hip flexor or some shit. I don't know. He's got something that plays into that. Maybe that's why they didn't go for a long one. But 4th and 6, I wasn't crazy about. But at that time we didn't see our protection completely fall apart because we had that. We moved the ball, like I said, in the 7-play drive. And then we also had already scored a touchdown. So, yeah, it is hindsight, but it's a worthy question. 4th and 6, and even on that 4th and 1, we went ham. It was a second effort to get it, too. So I would have rather seen a punt there, but it is what it is. They come back, 17-play drive. That was the thing, man. The defense really made them grind it out. And obviously, they wear down a lot of the clock because, we already mentioned the first quarter went by like that. So it was 4th and goal.
Yeah.
4th and goal. And, they call Kendricks with that touchy-feely type foul, almost like the NBA nowadays compared to the 90s basketball. To me, it was like, did it really slow the guy down? And it's still, even when they're in goal to go, it's still, they had to go like, 3 other times? I think on 3rd and goal they got in there. So they had to grind their way in there. Obviously, it got worse when, Sheldon called the timeout, and that gave them, 1st and goal again for the 2-point conversion. But what'd you think of this PI here?
I mean, what do we all think of? It's okay. So I'm going to give you this straight up way I think about it, and then I'm going to give you a little conspiracy theory because we all love those. Straight up, look, as a jersey tug, that's all I can really say. If he had an open hand, obviously, I don't think they would have made the call. But the only thing I could see on the replay was that he momentarily had a grip on the jersey, didn't impede his progress, didn't do anything. In fact, he was turned the other way. He's just trying to make up on the play. And the fact that the flag came so late, Chris, it was the play was over. The whistle had blown. The crowd was rejoicing. Vikings were hyped. The Browns were down. And then out comes the flag. Now, quick conspiracy thing. I just want to say, and this might be completely ridiculous, but you mentioned how quickly the first quarter went. And if you think about TV time, blah, 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 and extend that time perhaps, which they did, they stretched the last 2 minutes of that half out through penalties and so on for so long. So that's only my thought there. I don't want to go too deeply into it, but if there is any weirdness,
they're already paid for those contracts too. Like they're already paid for that revenue. So it's not giving them new revenue.
Right, but they still have to fill the time and kind of, notice how all the halves kind of ended around the same time. Anyways, that's ridiculous. Go on, but nonetheless, it was a bad call. In almost any year, like I said, the only saving grace I can think of is the jersey tug, and it wasn't really even a tug; it was just a grabbing of the jersey, incidental contact, and just completely changed the tone of the game, the mood of the defense. If you take that penalty away, that's 2 goal line stops for the Vikings, which can only build their confidence. You get the ball back, and the ball doesn't roll down the hill the same way it ended up rolling.
Yeah, and I want to know, looking back at that highlight, if his jersey was untucked, because then we could give him a penalty for the joke. Okay, wait a second, I'll stop. But we turned around and got a false start right away, 3 and out, and you could tell by that time the Cleveland defensive line was really starting to take hold. We had to punt it right away. 3rd and 20, Aaron. 3rd and 20. 33-yard run. Didn't really look like too many people missed a tackle because they couldn't touch the guy. I saw Blake Lynch had several good moments in this. I'm not trying to rip him, but it seemed like he got way wide on that play because he even cut it inside a little bit, then broke it back outside. That one was like, what the hell's going on? And it's crazy how that's how close this defense is, but to be in a damn solid defense, we've said it week after week now, and we're not blaming the defense on this one, obviously 14 points like we said, but 35 points in the last 2 minutes, and they got 11 points in a $1.19 this time. So 35 points through 4 games, all within the last 2 minutes of the second quarter. This has got to stop, Aaron. What the hell's going on?
I've just never seen a team so excited for halftime ever. I mean, you're right. The stats are ridiculous and astounding. The amount of points this defense gives up in the last 2 minutes of the first half. It's almost like it's inexplicable. I wish I could explain, but I think inexplicable says it. It's something that obviously they're probably preached to on a daily basis, and yet it just seems to continue. And it happened again, and it puts you in. We used to talk about double dip all the time, and thank God Cleveland didn't come out and score, after the half, but it would have been, that's what I thought was going to happen. Just the way that the mood of everything was going was like, this is happening, and then this happens, and oh crap, now that happens, and obviously the next thing's going to happen, but it didn't. And I don't know what to think about it except for maybe just letting down your guard a little bit before the half, or just trying to, hustle into halftime. But it's got to be something like that, because I don't think it's a scheme type of thing. I don't think, the coaches are letting up their calls or anything. I just think the players are maybe not as focused as they should be going into the half.
Yeah, Peterson kind of said that too. Like, we got to make sure every single play, really focus in on it, because, man, that really was like a buzzkill on how the game was going. And you're like, how did they get that many points in this? Like, it was crazy. It felt like it was going to be more of a score fest right away, but then that tightened up. So at half, we had already given up 98 yards, only gotten 36, and I think one of them was like on a decent run. Other than that, we were struggling on the run. 18:37 is how long they have the ball. So, at half, we know they got the ball back, and you're thinking, oh, here we go. But they did 3 and out. Now, unfortunately, the Vikings, another 3 and out, 5 on the day for those keeping track at home. Cleveland came back, got 2 first down runs, and it was like, here we go. They went deep on a 3rd and 8, and Dantzler's helmet made a great play, forced a punt. It's 3rd and 12. What do you know? 3rd and long. We saw that a lot today. It wasn't quite like those crazy penalties from game 1, 3rd and 25, but we were 3rd and, let's say, 8 and 10 and 12 so many times it seemed. But even that play that could have, we always say if you just get a first down, you never know what's going to happen, whether it's just field position. If we could have done only 2 3 and outs or 3 3 and outs, and those other 2 get it to 6 plays and switch the field position. But, Jefferson catches and run, made that great catch and run. We're now across the 50. Here we go. And Conklin gets called for holding. And I don't blame him. It's against Garrett. And they did make it look like he was split out a little bit. It looked like he was going to actually run a pattern. But then Hill was like, help it out on the inside. It's like, hey, dog, you're the tackle. You're the left tackle. We don't need help on the inside. Do we need this Garrett dude? It should be you and the tight end. And then the Ham, I believe it was, or anyway, the back, he picked up the blitzing safety or cornerback, whichever it was. So it was like, who are you blocking, Hill? The guy that's killing us. And so that just kind of, it just constantly, that was like just, I pointed that play out because after that, it really didn't feel like we had much going on at all. More 3 and outs. Maybe we move the ball a little bit, then we take a sack or get a false start penalty or whatever. And then boom, it just snowballed for the rest of the game. And we could sit there and coulda, woulda, shoulda, and we're going to talk about the last play of the game and all that. But after that, I mean, the defense held very tight. Sure, they got gashed with some more run, but dude, you're tired. Like, that's part of the offense, being able to, like I said, keep those drives going so you can at least get them a little bit more when you're going to wear down. But time and time again, whether they got a 3-and-out or a 6-play drive or whatever, the Vikings defense kept giving the ball back to the offense, Aaron.
Yeah, and the offense couldn't do anything with it. I mean, that's what happens when you shut down the run of a run-first team. I mean, this is what we build this team on: run the ball, play action. If you can't run the football, there is no play action or very little play action. And if you're going to put Kirk in shotgun, which never really happens for the reasons that I stated earlier about running first, you're going to get shut down almost completely unless you have some way to retool everything and go 3-4 wide and spread the ball around and throw the ball. But you can't do that without protection, and with, the interior of the line getting crushed and the edge rushers getting there as well. There's not a lot of hope for that. So it just seemed to be one thing leading to the other, all started by shutting down the run. And, you got to be able to run the football here to run this offense. It's just the way it is. You shut that down. We're fairly one-dimensional at that point. I don't think you can trust Kirk to, take over the game passing. Like, remember that game? Well, it was way in the 90s, maybe early 2000s, where the Patriots just came in and threw every down. I just don't.
Yeah, it was like late 2000s when we had the Williams Wall. Yep. 2007.
Yeah, I just don't think you can trust Kirk to do that. I mean, if you want to dink and dunk, maybe you can do that. He can certainly check the ball down. We'll get into that later. But, that's what it is, Chris. I mean, that's where the offense couldn't do anything. You could take a shot, but they did take a shot, and it didn't work out for them. What can you do when your bread and butter is not there?
Well, we, in the last probably 10 games, let's say, dating back from last year too, we actually have established the pass first multiple times. This year we haven't been doing the play action. In fact, this year we're right now anyway, doesn't mean we're not going to keep doing it, but we haven't been running the play action much this year, actually. And it's just to say that we can't throw the ball, I kind of disagree as far as because Cousins can't handle it. When you got 10 hits on him, you got 29 pressures, and just this is a funny little stat. Hill gave up what did he give up? Between Udo and Hill, 18 of those 29 pressures were on those two. Ouch. But no, running, of course you got to establish a run, no doubt about it. But I got to say, I would have liked to maybe get more 3-step, even fake a draw type thing in a little shotgun, because we've been running shotgun a fair amount this year. And I'd rather just get some more short passing. I'm not saying screen passes, because we saw that. That was a mess. And you know what? Maybe if you do, you got so many people in the box, maybe you can't run as many short because they're right there. So I understand some of that. I would have liked to just get some the ball in space of Thielen and Jefferson and whatnot, and just try it, try to just short pass and see where it gets us. It just didn't feel like we could even do that. But, it was just rough between, they were blitzing the shit out of us and we couldn't do anything about it. I think we've been blitzed. We've actually handled the blitz pretty well this year. We were going into this game, we were the second most blitzed team, and it didn't feel like it. Not second, and now we're for sure probably first after this one. But yeah, when you give up 29 pressures, how many times did we throw the ball? I mean, that's not going to work. And it just, like we said, it goes back to this cycle of the offensive line makes little gains, but when push comes to shove, and guess what? Push comes to shove in the playoffs. So when you play a playoff team, this is what continually happens, man.
Well, also, you can, now that you mentioned it, I mean, there's rollouts. You can, make the pocket more moving. You can 3-step drops, you can roll out, you can, do jet sweep actions, things to throw off the rush. And there just wasn't. It seemed like they really just wanted to stay in this one lane and didn't want to move from it at all. Like run the football, play action, run the football, play action. And maybe their success on that first drive made them think, okay, well, we can continue to do this. But obviously Cleveland made adjustments, and I'm not saying we didn't try to make adjustments, but we weren't, trying to get Kirk out of the pocket. We weren't, rolling him away from Garrett. We weren't doing anything creative, so to speak, reverses, anything misdirection to try to mess with the rush at all. It was fairly vanilla. And I wonder if that was, just due to like a panic from Kubiak or just exasperation and not knowing what to do or what it was, but it just seemed to go right down this track and trying to fit a square peg into a round hole that just wasn't working. And then you get to the point where you got to take a shot and you end up, throwing an interception. And it just, I'm not saying that, that we haven't been trying these things, but we certainly didn't try them in the second half. It just seemed like we were just stuck on this one note and we just couldn't get out of it. And obviously that just played through 3 and out, interception, sack this, almost fumbled that. And it just didn't work out and there were no changes developing. So I think that's was my most frustrating part about the second half was that I didn't see any creativity how to deal with the situation. Let's say you try to move the pocket and it doesn't work. Okay, then you tried it. At least we could see it.
Right.
But we didn't see any of that. We just saw, status quo and make it work. And with your offensive line being pushed around like that, it's nothing's going to work offensively. Like everybody says, well, we've got all these weapons. It doesn't matter if your offensive line is getting wrecked. It just doesn't matter. And you can go on Twitter or Facebook and say, well, we got Thielen and we got Jefferson, right, and Delvin Cook and Kirk Cousins isn't that bad. But dude, it doesn't matter if your center and your 2 guards are getting pushed around. Nothing else matters offensively.
Exactly. And this is something we've said since we started this podcast in 2018. We've seen the other side of it, guys. Look what we routinely did to Drew Brees. Like we've seen the dominant defense and what it does to be. We've seen the 9 sack days and that one where I can't even remember the record. I think it was against Detroit, but like we've seen it. We've seen these great offenses just get shut the fuck down. And that's what happens. That's just football. Now, are there some very few elite quarterbacks that can still do something? Yes. Not many though. Not many. I mean, look at last night. Both quarterbacks for a long time were getting, it wasn't pretty. It wasn't pretty at all. But they made it work. They dumped it off. They rolled the pocket. Just minor stuff. But anyway, down to the last little bit, and this is something, the last play kind of goes so quick on the TV, and a lot of people will just turn it off anyway when it's over, like, I don't, and it's crazy. Like we said, you got 3 guys rushing you, and we gave up pressure on it with 5 dudes to block. It's just so frustrating. But anyway, Cousins throws the ball, and a lot of people didn't see this, including myself, but I saw the back view now, and if we're going to call Kendricks, that PI in the end zone, it was just like this one. A lot of people were like, why did he throw it so short into the end zone? Why didn't he pop it up? Well, when you see the reverse side of it, you see exactly why he threw it like that. Because it was a completely pass interference all the way. You could still, I sent the photo to you, and, you can see the ball's about to be there, and this guy, it's pass interference. And it's not like college football, right? You get the ball at the 1, and then you're in. They got to put the clock, the time on the clock, and it's a wrap. Well, I shouldn't say it's a wrap, but you know what I mean. This is the Vikings, but it's a better play than a 32-yard throw or 37, whatever the hell it was. Better play than that. And there's just no call, no nothing. And it was literally these two were all kind of by themselves there for a little bit. And so it was pretty easy to see for a ref, and yet no call, no problem. And this was a mugging. This is like 1980s, Manhattan, a mugging.
Yeah, Chris, first of all, if you have a link to the picture, you should say it. And also, Go back and look at it while I'm talking right now. I'm going to try to describe it. So the ball's coming into the end zone from about looks just above the 5-yard line. And then you've got Thielen and I can't see the name on the back, but 28 for the Cleveland Browns. And Thielen's facing the field, and the defensive back is facing the crowd outside the back of the end zone. His back is completely turned. He's got Thielen in like a hug, and there's no way he can get his head around. He's not an owl. He can't get his head around at all to see the ball. And I've never seen a more blatant example of pass interference. And then if you look, Chris, like you mentioned, where's the ref? You can see him in the picture as well, too. He's just like outside of the 1-yard line staring at the play. So, I mean, it's ridiculous. But nonetheless, and you're at home, too. You should be getting some calls. I mean, isn't that home cooking?
Hey, off that ratings call, that would have tied the game. We go to OT. So to get the commercial ratings, that would have actually expanded it right there. Potentially.
Right. And it's just, I don't know what's going on, but and I mentioned you earlier about, we get these weird, the Vikings are involved in some of the most, have to consult with the NFL rule book type of calls.
Last year.
Yeah. It's like, I didn't know the situation for calling a timeout when there wasn't a timeout while kicking an extra point. And now all of a sudden that pops up. So now we know. I think all of us are pretty. Yeah, it's real nice. But it's like, okay, well, I don't know. It's frustrating. I thought the Kendricks one was probably more consequential just because of the flip side of that, 2 4th down stops as opposed to, letting them in for 7. It's the
but first and goal to tie the game at the end is pretty consequential.
That's pretty consequential as well. I think they're both probably, but I think I don't know. They both suck, but nonetheless,
one was obvious and one was ticky tack. We can call them both fouls, cool. Then call them both.
And let's be clear, we're not the Blame the Refs podcast. That's not what we do. But at some point, it's just egregious. And, we mentioned it. And, I'm sure that the NFL is going to get this picture and they're going to get the complaints. And what good does that do? You don't get the game back. So I don't know what to say about it. It's something that continues to happen.
Yeah, exactly. And we were talking about this before we jumped on and recorded the pod. Right after games, usually Zimmer, it's like a couple word answers and move on to the next one. Is that good? We're good. It's 3 minutes, 5 minutes. We're out of here. He's usually really mad, right? Like steaming in these type of in losses mostly. That's not the case here. This is a quote from Courtney Cronin. I know all you guys are stat guys. Well, that's his shit right there. I know you guys are stat guys.
Yeah, stat
but when you
guys.
Look at, and he makes a point. 78 plays, you're going to give up yards and all that. But he's like, they're a good running team and they're damn good at it. And they're, getting all these 2 guards out there and entire blocking and blah, blah, blah. But clearly I've never seen it like this since he's been here. Maybe in the first year because, 2014, just getting his stuff together. But it just seems like a little bit nicer, calmer. Hey, I've been in this thing 27 years as a full-time coach, and this is a good team. I know a good team when I see one. What's this all about? Break this down for us, Aaron, because we're 1-3. Coulda, woulda, shoulda. We should be 2-2, let's say, but we're not. But he's been real calm. Is he trying to show a different side? Does he really believe in this team? Break it down for the audience here, sir.
All I can do is speculate, and that's all any of us can do. And I think maybe there's a couple alternatives. This kinder, nicer, more subdued, I think, Zimmer, because I think he really wants to say the things that he said last year and react to things the way that he's always reacted to them. But there does seem to be a lot of pressure from the media on him this year, and Spielman as well, but mostly on Zimmer now that we're in the regular season. And like you said, he wasn't this nice during preseason, and then all of a sudden the season starts. You take a bad loss. Okay, that's you move on from that, and then you take a loss from a kicker, and you have to he believes in the kicker this time around, and I thought you'd had more reason to believe in Carlson than you would to have in Joseph, but nonetheless, timing wise, he believes in in Joseph, and then you take a bad beat here with then forget about the win where that was the best offensive performance that he had seen in
Yeah,
his
right.
entire
That's a
eight
great
coaching,
example. Yeah.
and
He doesn't
then
talk shit
now
about the offense at all, barely.
now maybe it's the only one he watched. But then this game, it's the kinder, gentler. We're not. We've been saying the defense has got to gel. Okay, so he's not the only one saying that, and I'm still on that bandwagon, but I do see some chinks in the armor, especially if you lose Pierce for any extended period of time. And I'm not sure Barr coming back is going to be the savior. I think Vigil plays just as well as him, and maybe even better, that he's
I
not
think
all banged up and
tackles.
stuff, and he tackles.
Well,
Uh,
I think Barr tackles better than our backup linebackers this year and last year. I think that's the biggest difference.
Yeah, maybe you don't have to play Blake, Blake Lynch, finally got his full name. And he's made some plays too, so he hasn't been all hot garbage or anything like
No,
that.
no.
But um, I think it has to do with the combination of the heat on him, which he has to feel. It's everywhere, probably from the Wilfs as well, and the positions that he's been put in. I remember before the season started, he went down the list of things he's had to deal with as coach of. So maybe this is just, maybe he's been setting us up early for this whole thing. But, I really think it's the same old Zimmer. If you peel back the layer, I just think this is another layer. And this is the layer of, I got to say what I got to say until I sign that new deal or don't sign that new deal or whatever it is going to be in the end.
Well, he signed a 3-year deal, so it
It
shouldn't
was
be that.
got,
I
what
think
is he?
it's seats getting hot. That's all. He's like, oh,
Well,
that is warm. Shit, I didn't.
yeah, what would you rather him do? Would you rather him just damn the torpedoes and F this, F that, this
No.
sucked?
It's just
You
the
know,
observation. It's
yeah.
different. That's all.
I'm just thinking in my head, what would the alternative to the way he's doing it now be? Just be straight up Zimmer and curse out everyone and which way you're gonna play it? I suppose with the heat on him makes him do it a different way, but I don't really see him, and I could be wrong because there's an awful lot of money at stake, but I really don't see him. He's always stuck to his guns as far as we've seen him, and he's always been in his right or wrong. He's always been in his principles, and the change is strange, and I do think it probably has to do with the hot seat at the end of the day. But I'd rather go out guns blazing.
Sure. Okay, so hopefully the elbow that actually got injured, Michael Pierce's elbow, shoulder, whatever, in practice, and maybe he hit a helmet. I don't even know how he did it, but he tried to played for a little bit, then had to go. He couldn't go back in the game, so we don't know where that is there. Speaking of Zimmer, he said, yeah, I think Barr's ready to go this week. Well, if he's ready to go, it was yesterday. Why didn't he play yesterday? Why didn't he play half the snaps or something like that?
Yeah.
That kind
Why
of
is he suddenly ready to go?
Right. Yeah, he felt great this morning. Like, well, what the hell? Was it a bad Saturday night or like what? Like, I don't get that. But Cook actually does feel better. This is the Zimmer report, so who the fuck knows about that? But when it comes to it, here we are. Week 3, we were in a must-win. They did win. Week 5, our second must-win game of the year. And we say must-win if you want to make the playoffs. Case in point, we went from 0-2, 10% to winning one game, and it put us to like 36% chance. Now I'm sure we're back in the teens or whatever. When you look at this, right, the Minnesota Vikings are the first team. This is from Dusty Baker, a great follow. The Minnesota Vikings are the first team in NFL history to have a losing record through 4 games while outscoring opponents and committing 2 or less turnovers as well, because that's one thing that we've been really good at. And then when you look at these teams, the Cardinals just whooped on the Rams. If you look at just PFF ratings, you got the first Browns, 4th Bengals, and 6th Cardinals, which you might probably put the Cardinals maybe first after what they did to the Rams. But then again, the Browns hung with the Chiefs and almost beat them, whatever. point is, these are pretty damn good teams. Two of them were on the road. Must win, obviously. Do we still feel like we felt in week 3? We're like, man, if we could just get it together, get to 2-3, start to go every other on the road, split the road games because they do come in twos. Do we still feel like, man, because the defense was the big issue, right? Well, 17-14 is pretty damn good back to back. But where you at here with the potential for a actual season that comes down to the wire with the playoffs involved, or probably the division, I guess, too. I don't
know. In the words of the great Jim Morrow, playoffs. I picked a pretty low record coming into the season, and last week made me kind of, rethink that a little bit. It's like, well, Jesus, Seattle's not terrible, and we played really, really well offensively, and if we can score 30 a game, defense only, can give up 29 at that point, and blah, blah, blah. And then, defense comes out and pitches 14, and offense can only get 7. So we're going to run into these lines, Chris, and, this schedule is proving to be quite a schedule. I mean, Carolina doesn't look too bad. Detroit might be the lightest team you have on this schedule. And you play them twice. So,
two times, baby.
Yeah, so that's 3. That's 3 wins, man. Look, here's what I'll say, and I'll stick to it.
Is there still hope? You don't have to be like you're on the hook for a prediction. Is there still hope for playoffs?
Yes, there's hope. Now, there's possibility and probability. It's possible to make the playoffs, but I don't think it's very probable. I just can't see.
So there's not much.
It depends on what you want to cling to, but
I cling to the Minnesota Vikings. Is what I'm clinging.
Offensive line is going to be an issue the rest of the season. We'll have its good games and its bad games depending on the level of competition it plays, but it's a bad line. Let's not try to fool ourselves anymore. It's a bad line. It's been a bad line, and unless the defense can hold a team to 14 every week, I can't expect much more.
I don't know about that, but
that's where I'm saying it's probable. So I'm going to stick with my original prediction. I know I wasn't supposed to give a prediction, but I'll stick with where we are. I think it's going to be a rough season, but is it possible, Chris, that we can make the playoffs? It is possible.
Well, anything's possible in this world, this great, horrible world. But I'm saying, is there real hope? Have you seen enough on the field to say they could sneak in 9-8? Maybe I should have just said that.
No.
Okay, perfect.
No.
All right, so here's
I hate
another.
To say it.
No, of course we hate to say it. Here's another one that is kind of interesting here. And it's a tweet from Baker again. I think I take solace in knowing we're about to either get on a nice little winning streak or a pathway to full-scale structural change. And I think that's kind of sums it up pretty well for a tweet. It's kind of like, hey, that's true. Either we're going to, we won 4 in a row last year. We started out, 1-5, got to 7 wins. Could we still do that? Sure, we could. Definitely. But if we don't, it's not the end of the world. We still have a young core. This offense is the youngest in the whole league. This defense is rebuilt in some ways, and some guys they're not all on 1-year deals. So I'm kind of like in between there. Anything else from this game before we get into this Lions stuff? Cam Dantzler.
Let me piggyback quickly.
Now he's on the COVID list, unfortunately. Cam.
I thought Cam played well, but let me piggyback off what you said a little bit. It is either a nice run or structural change, but my caveat is if that structural change does not include Rick Spielman or a general manager change, then I'm not really too optimistic about what could be that full-scale change.
Right, and we got a bye week to really talk about this stuff.
Now the Lions.
That's a good way to. Let's look at the Lions.
I want to be really confident about this. I really want to come out and say, well, thank God the Oasis is here. Detroit Lions coming to town. But I'm a little bit reserved now when it comes to that. I saw the receivers, Cephas. They got Amon-Ra, St. Brown. We've always had a pretty good time defending Goff, so I'm not too worried about that. Defensively, they've got some issues. It just depends on if this team, and this team being the Vikings, if they can, again, put this one behind them and come out and play a game they should dominate and win. Or is this going to be a hangover from this loss that's going to go on? Now, they do tend to bounce back. You are at home. They do need a win. It's weird to say you have a must-win week 5 against the Lions at home, but it is in order to stay anywhere in competition. You're going to have to win this one. And I think they will win it. But I would have been 80% sure. Now I'm like 60-40 on it. I think they win. I don't think they win big. I think because they tend to play down to competition as well. And so I think I don't say they want to eke this one out. I give them a touchdown advantage. I don't know what Vegas has. I'm sure you can tell me.
Yeah, I wrote down 30-23. It's a 49 over-under. Right now, it was 8 yesterday. It's 7.5 right now, which I would take the Lions in the points unless it goes like right now. I'd do it. I would have done it at 8 once it hits 7, or I don't think it'll get down to 6. But I have it 30-23. The Vikings. I just think that their offense right now is averaging like 21 points a game, and their defense is giving up almost 30. And plus Zimmer, it just has a way of beating these guys, whether it's ugly or a blowout. We tend to be able to move the ball on them really well. They can't really stop the run all that well. We did say how we needed Cook last week. The Zimmer report says he's feeling pretty good this morning, but then again, he didn't feel good 2 weeks ago in the morning when we thought maybe he'd give it a try. So I'm not saying we have to have Cook to win the game like I did last week, but I got the Vikes 30-23.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds about right to me. I'd say probably something like 27-20, something in that range. I'm a little worried about the offense being able to come back. I mean, if you put that on tape and other teams see what was successful against you, you're going to see a lot of it. And they might not have the talent.
Yeah, I was going to say you got to have Garrett too.
Yeah, they might not have the talent in Detroit, but they can certainly copy the scheme, and that might work a little bit. But I like it too. I think Vikings by 7. I think Vegas is pretty close to right, and I think you're pretty close to right as well. It should be a fairly convincing win. We'll see how that goes.
Yeah, and we did talk about when we were 0-2, if we could even get to 2-3, win 2 out of 3 at home, we could still then start to split on the road and stuff like that and get back to 500. It's the battle back. Well, I shouldn't say back to 500. Well, we were 500 at 0-0, so there we go. So, yeah, let's hope that happens. And to close the show, the Gophers did get a W in some really treacherous weather. Before the game, or before this win, they were down 13-10 at half or something like that. Fleck was 0-17 trailing at half. He got his first dub in that scenario. Weirdly enough, didn't even know this happened until today. Trey Potts was hospitalized in Indiana, didn't make the trip back. I think he's en route back now, or maybe he's back now, but he stayed there the night. And maybe until today, so that would have been 2 nights maybe. So I don't know where that stands. Hopefully he's okay, but you never really know, especially football. You were talking off air about some things that it could be, and you're like, yeah, at that point you get hit and it could be some kind of spleen thing like you mentioned. I mean, who knows what that is. I did like how they ran the ball just enough. And when it's raining, it's not always the easiest thing to run the ball like some people think. But we did manage to run the ball pretty damn well. And they took shots. They took shots down the field. Brown Stevens had his best game as a Gopher. Caught 2 big, deep balls. That was his only 2 catches. Autumn Bell was kind of in and out of the game, a little banged up. And he wasn't himself. And, that's another thing. When it's really wet out, you're going to have some drops. So we dropped probably 3 or 4 balls. I did like the bounce back by Morgan. When you look at his numbers, it doesn't look like much, but you could take – it should have been probably 12 completions, so that would have been 12 to 18 for probably over 200 because one of them was deep. It was just a drop. But overall, they got the W.
Yeah, they did it. They bounced back, and a terrible loss to Miami of Ohio. We kind of brushed on that last week. Just all the implications of how bad that loss was, and to come back and sort of, get back on the horse again, and play well. I mean, defensively, it looks like they played just a ton of people, and I thought defensive line really showed out in this one. A lot of pressure, pretty good against the run. Got some turnovers. Like you said, Mike Brown-Stevens, had a good game. Good to see Chris Otman-Bell again. I'd like to see more out of Span Ford, but, you're only throwing 18 times just due to the competition, I would say. And some of the line, offensive line stuff was 7-8 linemen at the time.
Yeah.
Like, whoa. Yep. It was pretty interesting, but you got to mud one out, I guess, in West Lafayette, and they did, and they won, and they won 20-13. And we'll take it. I think they go into a bye week next, don't they? And then
yes,
and then Nebraska, who Nebraska doesn't look terrible. They've played pretty well, and my confidence on the Gophers has gone down a bit after the Miami of Ohio loss, obviously.
Bowling Green.
I'm sorry, Bowling Green, and it makes every other game coming up that we thought maybe we could roll through, maybe not so easy. Like Nebraska would have been an afterthought, but now I'm thinking, okay, well, we got to take a good look at Nebraska. And speaking of which, you brought up Iowa last week, and I watched them this week, and dang, they're good. They're good. That offensive line is young and mean.
That number 15, that running back, just juking people all over the place. And they're throwing the ball more in Iowa this year, something that we haven't seen. So they're trying something new.
And that offensive line is young and mean. And it's going to be a tough game.
They got a big game coming up, Penn State.
Yep. And nonetheless, back to the Gophers. You got to continue to win. I think if you can put the bad game behind you and just continue to go forward, you could still have a pretty nice season out of it. Is it bad to say that we kind of expect to beat Purdue at this point?
No, I mean, on the road, it's still not easy. But, yeah, I mean, really the Bowling Green thing is what pisses me off because those are the teams you have to beat. But, yeah, I don't think it's a bad thing to think that they should be able to do that,
yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'd like to really know what happened with the Bowling Green thing. At some point, we maybe can break that down a little bit. I've been looking at it, and it's just been weird, but I think they just kind of got caught slipping and overthinking a little too much. I think maybe they were working on future game plans. A lot of times coaches will do that when, they think they can beat somebody. They'll run a game plan for another squad ahead of time just to get them practiced up. But, I can't say that's what happened, but
yeah, there's just no excuse. That's what pisses me off.
And it just puts a really bad cloud on your season.
It really does. By the way, a little update. He's still in the hospital. He's improving. He's okay, but he's still in Indiana. Just wanted to say that. Any last words before we shut this one down, sir?
No, for those that were looking on the Instagram for the Living in Loserville Instagram and the Purple People Eaters, there seemed to be some kind of problem. I know Facebook and Instagram had a big problem over the night and most of the day. It didn't have anything to do with that, but I think there was a hacking issue back there. I'm going to try to get it up and going again here, so look for that in the near future.
All right, we'll be back next Wednesday. Back next Monday. Let's hope we can talk about a Vikings victory. Peace.